Scientific discoveries are not always free of controversy. That certainly is true in the case of an ancient man who roamed the coastlines, shrub steppes, and deserts of what would later be known as the Northwest United States. I would like to tell you the story of the Kennewick man. In 1996, two young men, Will Thomas and David Deasy, were walking along the shore of the Columbia River in Kennewick, a city in south-central Washington. They were on their way to watch boat races. In the water, they made a huge discovery, a human skull lodged in the mud underwater. These men contacted local authorities about the skull. The county coroner, who recognized the skull as being old, in turn contacted a forensic anthropologist, James Chatters. Chatters would exhume more bones to have an almost completely intact set of human remains. They were given the name Kennewick Man. This finding was a huge discovery because it would allow scientists the opportunity to run tests that would better help to resolve early human migration and gene flow of peoples in North America. Not everyone was excited about tests being run on the remains of Kennewick Man, however. Northwest tribes in the late 1990s filed a lawsuit to procure the remains of Kennewick Man on the grounds that he was a Native American. One of the handful of Native American tribes requesting the remains was the Umatilla. They argued that they have say in the final resting place of their family member. They respectfully gave another name, the Ancient One. The body of Kennewick Man was sent to Seattle to be curated by the Burke Museum. Since the remains were found on military property, a federal court was convened. The court decided that without DNA results, Kennewick Man could not be considered a Native American. This ran contrary to the Native American tradition that Native peoples of the United States have lived on the land since time began. They likened work on the Kennewick Man, or the Ancient One, as people digging up your great-great-great-grandfather to study his life. A disgraceful practice. Ancestral remains are held in high regard by Native American tribes. They wished to have the Ancient One return to his resting place, the only fitting place for their relatives' remains. Following the federal court case, a group of international scientists gathered in 2005 to analyze the remains. The largely complete set of remains were a treasure trove to these scientists who wanted to know more about how early humans lived. Tests would show that the Kennewick Man lived long ago. To tell more of the story, we need to go back in time. Maybe we went a bit too far. Okay, that's better. Lab results showed that Kennewick Man lived about 9,000 years ago. Kennewick Man was found to be about 40 years old and 163 pounds. Judging from his bones, he had a very difficult life. He had multiple bone fractures. One of the most remarkable findings was a prehistoric spear point that was found in his pelvis from a possible altercation with other humans. The pelvic bone tissue had healed around the stone spear point. His right arm was considerably larger than his left. This indicated that he himself wielded a spear. He was found in the desert region of Washington, but his bones tell a different story. Analysis of his bone chemistry showed that he likely ate a diet of marine animals. Lots of fish. A lot of fish. This suggested that he lived and hunted along the coastline. Anthropologist James Chatters also noticed that the skull of Kennewick Man had a distinctive shape that was dissimilar to Native Americans, further fueling the divide between tribes and scientists who wished to continue studying the remains. Science would, in fact, find agreement with the tribe's long-standing argument that Kennewick Man, judging from analysis of remains, was in fact Native American. These findings showed that he shared genetic similarity to Colville Indians. This was first published in the journal Nature and later affirmed by federal research in 2016. 2 decades after Kennewick Man's discovery, on Friday, February 17, 2017, a gathering of Native American tribes reburied the remains of the Ancient One. This was the resolution that many Native American peoples had hoped for. Some scientists, however, were disappointed with this result, as they had hoped to take advantage of newer technologies to learn more about early humans in North America.